All I wanted was a bigger love sausage. I got one of those super sketchy enhance your manhood pills stuck in my throat, and now I know what dead person tastes like. My tongue has been doubling in length every hour for the last 3 days, and I can't get it to stop. Fuck my actual life. It was my team lead, Ronnie, who put me onto them. The pills, I mean. Should have known better than to trust someone I've only met through Zoom meetings, Slack chats, and Asana projects. But what the hell? I was desperate. You know the average length of a Johnson in the US is 3 inches non-erect. Mine's less than half that when stood to attention. I've almost lost my virginity 3 times, and in every encounter, I was cock-blocked by, well, my love sausage. The sound of women laughing actually makes my hair stand a little because of it. I was sick of feeling suicidal every time someone blamed the machismo bullshit and fuckboy behavior Chad types do on compensating for something. Having a small love sausage sucks. You'd try any sketchy shit sent your way. After 20 years known as Shrinky Dink in your hometown. Trust me and Ronnie were supposed to be having a meeting about training the latest batch of Bayesian algos. But it was 22 in Rio. Ronnie was plastered, totally blind-ass drunk. He also had 3 of the most beautiful women I'd ever seen behind him in his bed. We got chatting and he told me his secret. Next thing I know, a package arrives with my address on it, written in Ronnie's handwriting. A week later in the mail, there were 14 pills in the little vial. I had to run the instructions on the label through a translator. They were written in Portuguese. No manufacturer information or ingredients. Just take 1 per day after eating for 2 weeks. Double size guaranteed. Do not overdose or take in any way other than prescribed. If accidentally taken, prophylactically seek medical attention immediately. Standard shit basically. No, I didn't misread the label and accidentally overdose or anything like that. This mess was 100% not my fault. It was Ronnie's. I literally just got a pill caught in my throat. That was my mistake. My only contribution to this monumental fuck up. First one of the gold and purple pills I took lodged itself behind a tonsil just long enough for the outer casing to weaken. I coughed so hard trying to shake it loose and swallow it that I cracked the damn shell. The powder inside spilled out, dissolving over my tongue. I just about managed to pour a glass of water to wash the casing down and stop the coughing fit, but I was too late for stopping this hell I am in now. Far too fucking late. Sorry, I don't mean to keep swearing. I'm just stressed, you know. It's getting cramped in here. I don't think the walls to my crappy apartment building will last long, but my bones will definitely give out before the brickwork does. Anyways, the powder in the pill was foul to taste. Once when I was a kid, a family of about 8 raccoons got trapped under the tarp cover of our garage hot tub and drowned on Halloween. Mom and Dad didn't fire the tub up again until the next Valentine's Day. The damp chlorinated decomposition smell that lingered in our house until August that year is exactly how the manhood growth powder tasted. I had to stop myself from barfing. I wish I didn't, because if I'd vomited, maybe the stomach acid would have burned the damn stuff away. I don't take pills with anything to wash them down. See, I'd never needed to. You get used to popping ibuprofen like Smarties. After a few years spending 12 hours days lost in Python scripts, I had to run from my desk to the kitchen for the water. Plenty of time for the dusty mold in the purple gold pill to dissolve into the microporous surface of my tongue. You know why it got stuck? Because just as I swallowed it, I gasped. You know why I gasped? Because as it passed my lips, an announcement from our project manager popped up on the team Discord. Ronnie had been found in his apartment that morning. The living don't get found in their own homes, so the whole nearly choking to death incident took place before I'd even read why Ronnie was now posthumous. The Rio police hadn't given many details, only that the death was already being treated as homicide, and that Ronnie had a significant portion of his navel, groin, and inner thighs removed. I didn't make the connection then. Now I get it, what must have happened. Probably cut it out himself, threw it out the window. bled out before it could start growing back. Plenty of wild dogs in Rio. A piece of meat that big would be gone in under a minute. I didn't think about any of that when I read that announcement. I just felt lightheaded, both from the taste of the pill still, and because my mind was racing thinking up the illegal ingredients Brazilian drug lords had Ronnie killed over. Narcotic compounds that I'd just had delivered to my house. Ones I'd just eaten. I watched way too many Netflix documentaries. Okay, besides, believing Ronnie was hit by a cartel that shipped illicit growth supplements is still much more believable than the than the damn truth. At the time, my paranoid ass didn't know any better and was still freaking out about getting raided by feds or, worse, an international hitman. One tight-chested oxygen-thieving panic attack later, I was passed out on my bed for a solid 8 hours. That's when my problems actually started. I dreamed of Ronnie. I was floating above an endless favela, half a mile in the air, while dozens of copies of the 98 feet Cristo Redentor that watches over Rio stood beneath me, all looking up, all tracking me with their pupil-less stone stares. Ronnie was among them, and he swam upward, the greasy face beneath that comb-over full of unrestrained malice. I tried to propel myself away, to put some distance between me and the spiteful corpse man levitating toward me with outstretched arms. But it was no use. The army of statues started laughing when Ronnie reached me. Every big statue of Christ let out rumbling, granite gravel bellows while my former team lead wrapped his hands around my throat. Ronnie's lower torso had been gouged open. I could feel the warmth of his flayed innards spooling onto my legs when he pushed himself on top of me, his rigor mortis stiff knuckles bone-white tight. Even in my dream, the lack of oxygen had stars and flashes popping into my vision. The milk-eyed face above me swam behind a blurred purple haze. I was clawing at his hand, trying to find purchase to pry away his brittle grip, but his rotting flesh turned to slick wet mulch beneath my fingertips. Then everything went red. Ronnie leant over me, his pupil-less eyes rolling back in their sockets to reveal. Well, look, it was a weird dream, and we all know why I wanted the pills from Ronnie. I don't want to spell it out, but the corpse face on top of me now sported a pair of the other kind of head that male bodies have. The bulging purple mounds that emerged on the undersides of Ronnie's dead eyeballs had their own orifices, as would be, unfortunately, anatomically correct. God, I hate my subconscious. They puckered themselves when Ronnie howled, and I could see something glowing bubble up from wherever the urethral openings in his face led. There was a smell of cooking flesh, of burning roadkill fried in engine oil. I wish I could say the dream was part of some curse or whatever, but I can't. Fucked up dreams are on brand for my brain. Still, if it wasn't for the lava that spewed from Dream Ronnie's extremely gross eye sockets into my screaming dream mouth, I might not have woken up. The pain, the burning from the magma pouring down my strangled throat in the dream, shook me out of the deep post-panic attack sleep. If I hadn't already woken up screaming, I would have started immediately. I couldn't breathe. I was still being strangled. My tongue was still burning. The pain stopped the second I fell off the bed. That's because the change in position pulled my tongue away from the radiator. I hadn't had a chance to look at it yet, but I could already tell something was really fucking wrong. Apart from the burning, I had a more immediate problem though. The purple haze, empty lungs, and popping star flashes had followed me from the dream. Then, just as I was at the point of passing out, whatever it was wrapped tight around my neck relaxed. I gasped for breath, panting. Something was wrong though. My tongue was dry and still incredibly sore from the burn. Yet, whenever I tried to pull it into my mouth to soothe it, as a reflex I couldn't. I was still a bit delirious and panicked, so I didn't really put together what was happening right away. I thought a snake must have got in my room or something, strangled me in my sleep. Drearily I thought I'd snapped its neck when I'd fallen off the bed or something. After a few seconds the thought came to me through the haze. Hey, I should probably try and get this dead snake off my neck. I tried to pull it off. I could feel both my hands wrapping, Somehow, around my tongue, I could feel the slimy warmth of my tongue on my hands, and I could feel the cold clamminess of my hands on my tongue. My brain decided this was impossible. My feet took me to the mirror in my bathroom. My eyes took in the sight of the long, slimy, purple muscle that dangled from my mouth and wrapped around my neck like a scarf made from a dead eel. My eyes, wide with horror, then turned back to the doorway, widening further still when they saw the purple length of glistening muscle that had followed me from the saliva-drenched bed. My brain made another decision, that this was too much. I was clearly still asleep, and that it would try passing out for another 8 hours. When I woke up again, I was on the bathroom floor. I had a massive lump and killer headache, but thankfully, no radiator burns or oxygen starvation. I did have some phenomenal bruising on my neck. I didn't really care about that, though. I was more concerned about my massive fucking tongue. Sorry, I'm swearing again. Can you really blame me though? By my calculation, my tongue has doubled in length every hour since taking the pill. When I woke up on the bathroom floor, it had been 16 hours since I read about Ronnie's death. I'll be honest, I'd never measured my tongue before all this. The human average is about 3.5 inches, so let's go with that. After an hour, mine would have been 7 inches, a grotesque thing lolling out the side of my mouth while I slept. When it strangled me, 7 hours later, it was about 74 feet long. Most of that length was around my neck and coiled in my bed, with the tip eventually growing long enough to reach the radiator on the opposite wall of my studio apartment. When I awoke the second time, 16 hours after taking the pill, my tongue stretched 18,944 feet. That's just over 3.5 miles. Doubling every hour, I'd have 896 miles of slippery, writhing, phlegm-coated tongue slathering from my face by the end of day 1. I did the calculations lightning fast, vomiting and lapsing back into short, sharp, uncontrollable breaths as the full ramifications hit. Full disclosure, the doubling every hour is a guesstimate. The coiled mass that quivered on and around my bed grew twice as big in diameter over the hour that I watched it, sobbing and trembling, before deciding to figure out a plan. A whole bunch of math later, my plan was nowhere within reach. All I had was more panic, but at least now it was informed panic. Panic with numbers and statistics behind it. That had to count for something, right? Unless the government spooks that boarded up my apartment after those cops died have a change of heart. I'm not going to make it out of this still breathing. Shit. Maybe they were the ones who got Ronnie. Still, I don't want to go thinking that I was totally useless in the end. At least I can say I tried, can't I? I did the math. That's all I could do, isn't it? My bedroom was full by the end of day 2. By the end of day 3, I was huddled in the kitchen, pushing back against the encroaching tide of my own fibrous tissue, screaming a gargled, choked cry from a mouth forever refilling with freshly grown tongue. My howls weren't just from uncontrollable terror either. I was also disturbing every other resident in the building because of the pain. The absolute, total, unbearable pain. Why do you think I'm writing this right now? It's a distraction, something to focus on. If I was dictating, there would be way more whimpers and sobs. Trust me. Mr. Dawkins, the building super, barged his way through the front door not long after the 25th or 26th hour. He'd been banging on the ceiling a long time before that, telling me to shut up with that wailing. You damn liberal pussy. Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not exactly that cut up about what happened to me. Dawkins, he had it coming. Well, kind of. I don't think he had that, specifically, coming. I don't think anyone does, but he's definitely not the worst person it could have happened to. I'd be much more upset if it was that nice old lady next door that I've never got over my social anxiety hang-ups long enough to get to know. At the point Mr. Dawkins kicked through my door, I had over 1,000 miles of superfluous tongue cascading from my aching jaw. Do you know how many nerve endings are in 3.5 inches of tongue? Hundreds of thousands, and that's just the taste buds. When you bite your tongue, it hurts like fuck. Sorry, like hell. Right, The sensory overload of thousands of miles of tongue's worth of receptor nerves it's its own class of suffering. There aren't words in the English language for it. Maybe any language. No human before me has suffered like this, because no human before me has had a tongue this long. Have they? I'm only able to write this now before the pressure of being pressed into the apartment so tight has kind of numbed it a bit. Either that or getting parts of it smushed into the outlets gave me a massive electric shock. Either way, it was much more painful on that first night than it is now. Especially when Mr. Dawkins drove a kitchen knife into it. That hurts. Hold still, damn it, boy. I gotta cut this devil out of you. Whatever was in Ronnie's pill, it altered my physiology in more ways than one. Turns out my tongue isn't just longer now. It's tougher, too. I remember feeling the man's fat hand around my neck as he lifted me by the throat. The glimmer of fear and excitement in his piggy eyes as he poised the blade at my top lip. I felt the coolness of its razor edge on my taste buds. My chest tightened. My heart beat faster than a greyhound chasing a track rabbit after a power surge. I tried pleading with him but couldn't get words out. Between the mouthful of tongue and hand around my throat, coherent speech was impossible. There was pressure on my tongue. A thin, acute pressure. A pressure that was dragged and turned into a slow slice. The flesh of the muscle coiled around the blade, the thinnest point of its edge pressing into the moist surface. I could taste the tang of the stainless steel, the coppery warmth of blood. However, never came. Don't get me wrong, it hurt like all hell when Mr. Dawkins pressed the knife tip harder and harder into my taste buds. But he couldn't break the skin. It didn't feel any harder to the touch. It just, I don't know, refused to yield to the knife. Like it had been reinforced at a cellular level undetectable to the naked eye. It was when Mr. Dawkins got frustrated and stumbled backward that he sealed his fate. He put too much into his final blow. You see, bowled himself over, tripped over the wriggling coil of tongue leading from my face to the pulsing tangle overflowing out the bedroom across the hall. It's into this writhing, roiling mass of tongue that Mr. Dawkins landed. As soon as he fell into the mess of squirming tongue, it began to consume him. I began to consume him. It's happened 3 times since. All of them cops following up on the noise complaints, and then missing cops. Before the X-File suits who showed up on day 3 decided it would be easier to lock me in and wait for me to get crushed under the weight of my own mass. It always went down the same way too. Remember when I said if this was dictated you'd hear a lot more ouches? Well, now you'd hear me trying to cough up puke around my still growing tongue. I can still taste them. I hate putting what it feels like into words. Have you ever had someone put their hand in your mouth and rummage around? But not like a dentist. Like an unwanted advance, let's say. Mildest comparison being when you're having at it with someone and they go for the suck my finger bite my thumb digits in mouth, and you're not feeling it. That's the closest facsimile to the sensation of Mr. Dawkins, and the 3 cops suffering in my tongue mass. I could feel every inch of them as they scrabbled and struggled and pushed against my slime-coated taste muscle. They may as well have been in my mouth. My brain, struggling to compartmentalize the insanity, basically registered it as happening that way as far as physical sensation goes. I remember watching, horror-struck, paralyzed by the madness of it all while they pleaded for help that I couldn't give. They'd always struggle, always. 2 of the cops tried shooting. Didn't work. The writhing coils of tongue couldn't be torn, or severed, or shot through. The saliva that coated them made finding purchase impossible. There was so much sputum drooling from the roiling biomass that I'm pretty sure it's my victims drowned in lungs full of phlegm before they suffocate from strangulation. The miles of coiled tongue would constrict and contract around them, pulling them into the mass to be digested. I'm guessing that's how it works for me now. I haven't got hungry since, and I can't begin to fathom how many calories I'm burning growing this fucking tongue. Anyways, I'm always able to feel them stop moving after a while. They bite, claw, and scratch, it hurts, but the tongue always subdues them in the end. The digestion is slow, though. Mr. Dawkins died 2 days ago. I can feel the warmth of his decomposition like he's rotting in my mouth. The sickly sweet rancid meat flavor of him. The chill trickle of the juices released from his bloating frame seeping between the tight coils of my tongue. Every drop of his half-digested spoils marinating my taste buds. I'm running out of room in my shabby but spacious apartment. There's maybe 2 square feet of space left that isn't occupied by tongue. The CIA, FBI, whatever spooks showed up a few hours back. I heard the bang of them boarding up the door. The warbled conversations they had with the neighbors to evacuate the building. They're probably going to get me soon, like they got Ronnie. The pill's intended effect must not work as fast, since Ronnie took them for days and didn't have miles of. Well, I'm not going to lie, guys. I'm scared. The building has safety bars on the windows, so I can't smash them and rappel down the building like some gross John Carpenter. I've tried biting through the tongue, cutting it off myself. No good, doesn't work. Staring myself down in the mirror before plucking up the courage to try both of those options was exactly as traumatic an afternoon as you're imagining. I can see the suits out the window, loading the nice old lady next door and the rest of the neighbors onto a bus. They keep looking up at my window, muttering. I don't blame them. Oh shit, my signal keeps gonking out. A black van has just pulled up. One of those were not a surveillance van, honest kinda deals. They must have a signal jammer to stop any evidence of my massive tongue getting online. I'm going to be honest, part of me hopes they'll hurry up and cart me off to some lab. Maybe fucking kill me. Maybe it's for the fucking, not sorry anymore, best. I can't help but remember how Ronnie was found. Parts of him were removed from his navel to his torso. I already know he couldn't have cut his Johnson off himself, even if he did want to. I've read about parasites that replace limbs in fish and stuff, right? If the scratching sensation that started in the back of my throat about 15 minutes ago is connected to the gaping chasm they found between Ronnie's legs, getting crushed to death by my own tongue, or black-bagged by Mulder and Scully, doesn't seem like such a bad outcome. Don't bother trying to send help. Not going to lie, I started writing this with getting help in mind. But just, what's the fucking point? I'm done. If you take anything away from this fucking insanity, maybe make it not laughing at guys with small love sausages. Or maybe the moral is take your pills with water. I don't know. Anyways, I've got to go. The whole damn mega tongue just started fucking vibrating. That scratching in my throat I mentioned really fucking hurts and feels way too much like mandibles. And to top it off, I just spat up a fuckload of blood. It's not fair, man. All I wanted was a bigger love sausage. Shout out to my superfans Sweet Black Swan and Brooklyn. I really appreciate you guys supporting my channel, and I look forward to making more content for everyone.